Howdy guys, figured I'd try to get back on the wagon here. Anyway, I thought I'd make it more fun today by just talking about the top 5 reasons not to go into journalism. Now, these are reasons that I've talked to amongst my colleagues and friends, and ones I feel, are worthwhile reasons not to go into journalism. So the first reason not to go into journalism is that there's ultimately more drama than matter of record news. Ask any, early journalist career, it's mainly finding sensational anecdotal stories and reporting those out rather than contributing to the public discourse in any way. It's a lot of look at this crazy little thing that happened at the high school sports arena, or this crazy ice cream cone, or whatever silly, stupid, sensational animal or child or political gaffe that's happened that then you can report out in either a video or print form to try to get some clicks or reads or headlines, but is ultimately fugacious and very ephemeral and does not contribute to the public discourse or further the public discourse in any meaningful way. So the kind of ideology that one has when they're 18 in journalism school, that they will be enhancing democracy, goes right out the window early on in most journalists' career. For the first couple of years, you're going to be doing a lot of hey, saw this video on Twitter, can I have your permission to use it? Yeah, that's a lot of that, I kid you not. Second reason to go into journalism, you're not going to get rich. Money is made by people who create things in society, not by those who cover them. That is a kind of just indelible line or law of capitalist society, in that you're never going to make as much money covering a subject or as an individual as the individual who is creating or doing that action. Right? The financial reporter is not making as much as Jamie Dimon or Elon Musk. That's because Jamie Dimon and Elon Musk, however you may feel about them, are moving the ball forward in the market or in society, whereas the Forbes or Fortune or Bloomberg reporter ultimately is not. They're just covering it. Now you could argue, well, they're contributing to the public discourse by revealing perhaps embezzlement or fraud or the weird personality quirks of an individual, and that all has value. But if you're thinking you're gonna make some money as a journalist because it seems like a white-collar job, like perhaps a lawyer and a doctor does, no. It's going to go doctors making the most, then lawyer, and then journalist down here. And that's just true. Even starting out as a doctor, you're going to make more than a starting out journalist, and a late-term journalist is going to make less than a late-term doctor. I should caveat that, barring that you get into TV and become a kind of Tucker Carlson or Rachel Maddow or Brian Williams-esque figure, in which case you're not really a journalist then in that capacity, you're functioning more as a, quote, talent, and that's a totally different animal. Number 3, it attracts more psychopaths than lawyers and businesses. I kid you not, that is a true source that I've heard before, and like any journalist, I cannot quote to you off the top of my head, but they've done some surveys, and they found that the journalism industry attracts more psychopaths per capita than lawyers do. Now, why is this? Well, my rough viewing of the situation is that ultimately a lot of journalism success is built on the backs of burning people's reputations. That's probably the most true thing Milo Yiannopoulos has ever said. I don't like the guy at all, but he once said, what are journalists? Journalists are in the business of ruining other people's reputations. And there is a lot of truth to that. And so if you're not comfortable kind of burning people publicly, regardless of how you may feel about them, let's say you just, even something as simple as this politician had an affair. Now, going public with this story is going to obliterate the family and the children in that family. But most journalists do it anyway because that's the path to success. That brings engagement, that moves the conversation forward, that brings you esteem amongst your peers. So, one, a lot of psychopaths get off on that because they have no empathy, and so they're able to do that job quite well. But 2, that's just what a lot of journalism is success on the backs of burning people's reputations. I'll actually tell a little story about this psychopath problem. I remember the first time I ever encountered a psychopath. It was working in New York City in journalism. And to give you an example, I remember I was in the elevator and this person entered the elevator and then they wanted to talk to me alone. And I guess in an IRL conversation, not on Slack or through email, where it could be documented in any meaningful way. So what they did was they hit every button on the elevator to slow it down, I guess. I'm not really sure. As if, literally out of a movie. They walked in, saw that it was me, and hit every button on the elevator to talk to me about something that was ultimately trivial, and that was just, office gossip that meant nothing other than, this person wanted to use some information about, X or Y to further leverage their position in the company. It's total nonsense. But it's the kind of stuff you deal with working in the kind of mainstream media, New York City, LA journalism. Anyway, back to the list. Number 4, it follows the power law or the Pareto curve quite accurately, and that most of the productivity is dominated by a few at the top. It's a very esoteric way of saying there's a couple journalists at the top that account for most of the things that you read about in the papers in the New York Times, CNN, Wall Street Journal. And they're mainly political reporters, and they're the ones with the big networks and the big scoops. And then below that, this power law is this huge fat tail, distribution fat tail, wherein lies everybody else. And those are all the people that are doing little stories here and there, covering the stock price change in Tesla, or covering Bitcoin, or having their little beat reporter on like entertainment or the Oscars, or just, once again, hey, can I use your Twitter video of, the ice cream cone falling off, the bird? Or whatever it may be. I mean, that's the bulk of journalism right there. And that journalism follows that power law, that most of the productivity and most of the stories we read, and the big stories that move the conversation forward in the United States, are dominated by very few individuals. Now, this is true in lots of things in society, but journalism is no exception. So, just statistically, you're not likely to become very famous or notable or have very big stories if you go into journalism as a field. Something to just know. And number 5, that's 10. Number five is journalism has a socioeconomic background problem, and that a lot of your peers will have gone to relatively prestigious universities. Their parents will be well educated. They will relatively have grown up in a affluent, middle class, upper middle class background, and therefore they have, for the most part, a specific outlook on unions, capitalism, labor force, what's right and wrong there. Billionaires are generally bad, unions are generally good, culture is really important, not really understanding the plight of somebody who works at Subway, or, is a train conductor operator, or somebody who works for Kennecott Mines, right? Just because they don't understand that world very well. And so if you come from that world, you'll find, and you manage to ascend the ranks, you'll find a lot of your peers kind of went to Yale or Northwestern or Northeastern, and there's a bit of a disconnect there in how you may view the country and how they may view the country. And this applies as well for people of other countries that then enter the American journalism market. So I have friends that are from South Africa or Iran, and they always comment on the same thing, that the commentary at the kind of mainstream journalism class, it does have a socioeconomic problem, just as the person from, the Appalachia, who maybe grew up, in a trailer home with their dad working for the mines, right? Or their mom was a cashier at the grocery store, and they do well in school and become a journalist, might have a problem connecting with the kind of affluent upper middle class people that went to Yale in this industry. Same with people that are from South Africa or Iran or even the UK, for instance. They're like, there's definitely like a personality type that goes into journalism. So that's something to keep in mind. Those would be the kind of 5 reasons to not go into journalism. But if you do, best of luck to you. If you want to watch another video, you can click around. Thanks as always for watching, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. I promise. Pretty sure I promise. I'm going to go for it. Bye.